2025 has been full of a lot of twists and turns. And I think the biggest thing that I want to impart to you today is you're not done yet. Like we're just past the halfway point. Call it the third quarter, if you will, for all of my football fans out there. What's important as we look at September, October, November is how we make this shift into the winter and into what is going to be an amazing 2026. And yeah, I'm projecting that a little bit because I am a Pollyanna. I do believe in good things, but I also believe in making it so. So, one of the key things that I want to do with you today is really talk about how we shift and what our competitive edge looks like and how we get there together. But you got to start with the acknowledgement that the only constant in the world is change. Yes, thank you. It's this phrase that has been around forever. And honestly, we have lived every bit of this. We're a year into the NAR settlement. We saw wide sweeping changes across our industry where many of us may not have used buyer brokers previously. Now that is part of our daily rhythm and routine as we meet with clients. But we're not done. See, the other things that are happening right now, we've got the MLS, they've got new rule sets, delayed marketing, so we're educating our sellers. And now with AI at our fingertips, sellers are actually consulting AI before we even get to the house. They're consulting it on price, terms, conditions, what's going on in the market. They're digesting more information in seconds than we could have done in hours of a presentation. And that's important to know as we go out because not only are we smarter because we're using AI and we're consulting with it in advance of our showings or listing appointments, but so are our clients. So how do we make this an adaptation? How do we go forward? And obviously, we've got to normalize the uncertainty. And yeah, I'm going to raise my hand on this first thing. Like, people are waiting and sellers are a little bit kind of like, hey, what's going on? It's really important because everybody right now, we've got a bit of discomfort. And that's industry wide. But what I also know is when the industry changes every single time, those who show up as professionals, they absolutely grow and they dominate. The hobbyists, they kind of move to their wayside. And that's not to say like you can't be a hobbyist in this industry, but you're going to have to work a whole lot harder because what was bare minimum before is now up here. And for those of us who have been living in a professionals market for a while, we just elevated the game again. So as we start to look at how we go forward, a couple of key things that I want you to think about. We're no longer order takers. This market is absolutely separating that. See, what I want you to think about in your business, it really comes down to how we educate and how we show up. And what I mean by that is with the inventory going up, price adjustments are. And if you got into the business post, let's say 2015, you may not have had to do a whole lot of price adjustments. So as a result, the conversation with your seller today is wildly different than maybe you've ever had. Previously, you could stick a sign in the yard, put it on the multiple listing, put some photos in the MLS, and you'd have multiple offers. Now you're doing all of those things plus a virtual tour, plus open houses, and you're sitting on the market for 30 days and the seller's going, hey, why haven't I gotten showings? Why don't I have multiple offers? Well, they're living in 2022 and you'd love to be back there, but that's just not where we're at. So those sellers must be educated and spoken with frequently. See, there's a lot of concern of like, how do we do this? How do we go forward? And for sellers, understanding it makes a huge difference. Now, of course, we could all point to interest rates. Interest rates are higher than they've been in recent history, but I will share with you this, I'm not afraid. I bought my first house in like 2000. The interest rate on my first house, 7.5%. No big deal. And you know what? Back then, we were selling a lot of homes. It's a good thing to have this conversation with people. And yeah, I can go back and I can talk to my mom and dad who bought their first house at 17% interest in the early 80s. Glad we're not doing that. I don't need to finance anything on my credit card when it comes to buying a house. But the odds of us seeing a 3% or a 4% or heavens, even a 5% is slim and none. Guys, that was the Powerball era. Now we are moving forward. We're most likely going to be, modulating between 6% to 7%. So we really can't play or blame interest rates as to why we aren't selling houses. It just means serious qualified buyers are in the market. And we are seeing in some markets 50% of the deals are cash. So it's really about keeping our eyes open there. Now, oh, I went too far, but let's go back real fast. I love this. Buyers are no longer emotional. They're buying with logic. They're thoughtful and serious how they go forward. And what's so important about this is instead of walking in, and we've all been in this moment where you walk in and you can see it on your buyer's face. They're like, this feels good. Wow, I really like this house. And we've all seen it, right? You've seen it on their face. Their body language changes, their tone softens, maybe gets a little bit higher. Yes, even for the guys. And they're like, wow, this is nice. And so you could have the conversation. And maybe if the seller was there for the showing, they were like, hey, we've had all these other showings today. If you're really interested, please put something in soon. Y'all, that's gone the way of the dodo. Please stop talking about urgency. Lead with value. If I'm a listing agent right now, I'm talking about all the things the seller has done to prep this home for sale for the next perfect buyer. I'm talking about the upgrades. And this is a pro tip. Have your seller make a list of all the upgrades that they've done to the property in the last couple of years, like everything. And if it's been in the last year or it was a big spendy item, I want you to get that receipt. The reason being, when you go to get the appraisal, one, you've got all of that information. It's also super helpful on the seller property disclosure. And then finally, it allows the buyer to feel great comfort that, hey, you just spent $25,000 on a roof last year. That's awesome. Still going to have a roof inspection, but I feel a whole lot better that I've got a newer roof. Oh, HVAC, 20 grand. Yes, I feel really good about that spend. Great. Let me know all of those things. See, those are big ticket items. People don't just walk around with an extra 20 grand, or if they do, they don't necessarily want to spend it on an HVAC. Not terribly sexy. So the buyers are going to shop on logic. They want to make sure that they're buying the best house for their family that's going to last. They're not immediately buying something that they're going to have to dump a ton of money into it unless they buy it for a less than retail price, like a much less than retail price. So those are things to consider. Now, what I love about this market, it provides us the opportunity to adapt and provide value. So huge here because you're no longer an order taker. The skills that you have, what you're developing right now, will see you through next year. And it's so important to embrace that because, y'all, the market's not likely to come rushing back this next year. It's going to be a hard-fought professionals market for the next couple of years. We're seeing all indications of that. And what I mean is, buyers are going to be thoughtful. They're more educated than ever. AI is absolutely at our fingertips. It's kind of like when the internet was first launched. Yes, I know I'm dating myself there, but when we first started to see the internet really come out and buyers being able to look up listings and ask questions, we used to be the gatekeepers. They would have to come to us and ask about houses. Now they're looking on Zillow or Redfin or homes.com. They can look at all the houses and they're telling us what they want to look at. As a result, we need to up our game again. And how we prepare for them, the information that we showcase is going to be critical. So this is where I want you to impress upon and kind of drill down and own this. I want you to tell them, then show them what your strategic focus is. It's a tell, then show. Tell, then show. It's a rinse and repeat. You've always got to be showing. You've got to exercise that knowledge in a way that's meaningful to your clients. And so the precision over promotion, absolutely. Your CMA, it's no longer enough just to pull information out of MLS. You've got to be detailed. Then I'm comparing it against Zillow. I'm comparing it against any consumer access they may have. And I may be running it all through ChatGPT. Not going to lie, like you've got to put it all together because if you don't, the consumer is. So why would you miss a step? Why wouldn't you be proactive and show them everything? If you are doing that, it takes the sting out. It helps them understand how prepared and how much time you've put into it. Professionals, on average, it takes us about 80 hours to do all of these things from start to close. So why not exercise that up front? You invited me out to your home. Let me show you the value of what I do. I'm going to tell you all about it, and then I'm going to show you with everything. And that's really where, as we're having these conversations, like your confidence builds, right? You have more assurance in what you've pulled and why you've shown it in a certain way. And this is the thing, like as you are prepared, you get more comfortable. You get more comfortable to have the conversation. You can educate people on the market and they feel better about who they're speaking with. You become that market expert in their mind, right? You're the purveyor of knowledge. And this is for my brand new agents. If you are brand new to the industry, you have no bad habits, awesome. But even more importantly, the more you exercise this, the more you actually are prepared. It makes a huge difference because it doesn't matter how long you've been in the market. People, when you show up prepared and you can talk about the market like you've been here for 20 years, all the difference in the world, and you're most likely to get hired. Now, I love a good stat. And check, double check, right? I want to be pulling from NAR. I'm pulling from Redfin. I'm using Business Insider. I'm going to all these different places. And I'm also checking ChatGPT. I'm asking for updates and prompts and things like that. I'll also admit, like with ChatGPT, it's a trust but verify. So I will always ask for the sources that it's using to pull from. Are they pulling from this year? Are they pulling from this week? Or is it something that's innocuous? Always be showing people what you've done and where you got it because it makes a difference. And they're going to go back and verify, right? They're always going to double check you. Anytime we start to look at that and purvey the stats, like you're laying it out, and you're saying, yes, Barbara's house sold in 2023. That's why she had 50 offers. 2023 was a different market. This is what's changed since then. And that's why Sam's house down the street that sold 2 weeks ago is our better comp than Barbara's. It makes a difference when you can kind of help people frame what to understand, but that's also being prepared when you show up. Like what sold recently in that neighborhood? Were they friends? All of that. When you and I show up as the educator, we help guide people to make their best decisions. And I think that's the other thing that has changed. I want you to be fully prepared when you go in and you're having a conversation with the seller. They know everything about their house. There's very little that they don't. They are also working and absorbing everything they can about the market in many instances. So they're consulting not just the internet or ChatGPT, but they're consulting their friends, they're consulting family members who may have had a real estate license in 1995, like all of these things, and they're watching the news. As a result, you and I come in, and to earn that educator kind of title or that educator kind of role, we have to be able to show everything that we've done to get there. So this is your credentials. This is your classes. They are Googling you. What does your LinkedIn look like? I know I'm throwing a lot at you and you're going, Holly, this is a lot. I thought this was 45 minutes to help me with my mindset. Yes. This 45 minutes is about you preparing for what's next. And as a professional, that means each portion of your business, how are you showing up and what does it look like? It's strategic and it's purposeful. Now, when you start to go down this road, it's about controlling the conversation. Otherwise, you get whipped around. And we saw that a lot this past year, especially when we had to have the compensation conversation. And I know I'm saying, hey, let's talk about commissions, but this is what's so important. Commissions have always been fully negotiable, but now consumers are like, oh, I can negotiate this? Y'all, it's really important that you and I lead with value and education when we start to ask for, hey, this is my value. This is what I charge you. Like that can be a non-negotiable for you. Like I charge this for this amount of work. You want to pay a lower price? Cool. What of my services would you like to exclude? And some are non-negotiable. Some I have to do. That becomes a really important conversation because you've prepared for it. And what I found is every time I prepare for that kind of conversation of, hey, this is my fee for service, I don't get pushback. By showing up and explaining what the process is, what they can expect, how you show up in that process, and how you guide people. As a listing agent, I'm not just going to put a sign in the yard, take photos, and put you on MLS, and then call you when I get an offer. We're going to be talking every week. We're going to be talking about strategy and buyer feedback. If we get it, we'll be lucky if we do. But if we get it, what does it look like? And then also, how do we go to next? How do we price you appropriately? What strategies should we employ? Feedback is the flooring is damaged or there's a weird smell. Okay, great. How do we investigate that? That's how I walk with you side by side. And so my compensation, this is why I charge this, because I earn every penny of it. My preparedness, not only for you today, but everything I've done for as long as I've been in the business is showing up for you now. Makes a difference. Now, of course, sellers are not putting compensation in the multiple listing service. That went the way of the dodo a year ago, right? It's gone. Thanks for playing. So buyers agents, we're negotiating upfront prior to showing what our fee for service is. And I'm going to say that again. Upfront prior to showing, we are negotiating our fee for service. So having that buyer broker agreement signed before you open the door is absolutely a must. Period. That's part of the settlement. That's part of the regulatory changes that we're seeing in many of our states, some of them state law. Make sure you're doing that. I don't want you to get caught in the messy. And then finally, clear cooperation. Yeah, clear cooperation must be entered into the MLS if you take in a listing within 1 business day of public marketing. So flyers at your son's t-ball game, got to be in the MLS. Posting something on social media, coming soon, 789 Peach Street, yeah, got to be in the MLS. So those are things that we are having the conversation around. They're non-negotiables. We're having that up front so people are prepared, and that allows us to be proactive with our clients. But when you and I start to see the shift, what happens now is we're consulting on the buyer agreement. See why you want to hire me. Yeah, you can call the listing agent on the sign, but let's talk about who's advocating for you, what it means to have somebody in your corner that does point out all of the stuff that's going on in the house, help you do the extra research and meet your family where you're at, but also pull other houses that are important to you. And oh, by the way, show you in the contract the things that may be important to ask for contingencies, important to ask for, I don't know, negotiating, because again, it's not just about price. We're looking at terms, condition, and timing. See, sometimes, yeah, the price may only come down, let's say 3, 5, 10%. But I may be able to negotiate more concessions, including my fee, with your permission, with the seller. And by asking for a rate buy down, we may be able to ask for 3 months HOA prepaid. We may be able to ask for a new roof. What's important to you? And that's where the buyer agreement, that moment, becomes really consultative. Like it's that opportunity to really flex on your knowledge and guide them through the process of what they're signing, rather than, hey, I can't let you in this house unless you sign this, which some agents do. This is the difference between a professional's market and a hobbyist. The hobbyist says, hey, just sign this so I can open the door. A professional says, hey, let's talk about the fee for service and what I'm going to do for you and what it means to you and your family, not only today, but in the long run, and how you benefit. That's a difference. That's a huge opportunity. And the commission conversation with the sellers is the same, right? You're hiring me to put your house on the market. And so we are going to decouple the compensation. This is what I charge. Now, seller, in this market, you may want to signal to a buyer or buyer's agent, I'm willing to offer a co-broke. I'm willing to offer compensation to you, which means, hey, if that buyer's agent brings me a buyer, I will gladly, seller, pay that buyer's agent. You can absolutely do that. Or I can advertise, I'll do HOA transfer fees, I'll do a homeowner home warranty, or prepay homeowners association. See, having that commission conversation, again, it's not just about price, it's terms, conditions, and concessions. Anytime you and I are setting the seller for success, we're giving that big picture. Makes a difference. Now, that education of the clients and how we pull it all together, this is where, and I love the listing kit in Canva that eXp has provided all of our agents. You can go in and customize it. You can customize it to the client. You can add photos. You can add your resume, but also you can start to adapt like, hey, what's going on for you in your market? How are you focused on taking care of sellers through the fall and into next year? What's different? How has your market shifted? And this becomes a really unique skill builder for your value proposition. How do you flex on that? Like, what does it look like when you negotiate? What has been your list to sales price ratio? For sellers, that's a really big deal. I may list at this, but I'm able to get you closed for just shy of what we listed for. That's how good I am at my pricing. Now, for buyers, I may be flexing on, hey, I've been able to negotiate prices down this amount. I've been able to get concessions. I've been able to do all of these things. And I want to give them some articulate, like, this is what I was able to do. This is how much money I save my clients. And this is where testimonials really come in handy. Put those a part of your listing kit. Put those a part of, like, on your website. Buyer reviews are huge. People are shopping based on crowdsourcing, right? Think of going and getting your haircut. How many of you just Google somebody and you're like, yep, that'll do. I'll go there. Now, guys, you may totally do it that way. That's cool. Ladies, you're probably asking 3 or 4 people who you really like their haircut. Where did you get your haircut? What do they take on new clients? Ask those questions, because this is happening for agents. Like, everything that you and I do as far as skill building now pays dividends later, because you can showcase how you've taken care of people. Now, that conversation, representing your best interests, absolutely. How do I do that? When you hire me, what you can expect, the transparent agreements. And this is what I love, that the eXp single property to the exclusive buyer broker agreements, it's been written out so clearly. There's not a whole lot of legalese. And honestly, y'all, we designed it so you could actually tell the story of how you work by working through the document. You don't miss anything. And it's really hands-on in that way. It also is really important, as you have these conversations, how you align with their goals. Like, what is it that they're wanting to do? They're moving because they need to be closer to family. They're moving because they just started a new job. They're having a baby. They got a puppy, like all of these things. But also maybe they're moving for a lifestyle change. And that's been one of the biggest drivers over the last 6 years. People decided, especially coming out of COVID, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go change my life. And that's not done yet. As a result, how you and I show up and what that looks like, you can evaluate on price, but if the rest of the property doesn't quite fit them, let's talk about what that means. I work in kind of a retirement second home market. And so these are conversations that are very, very common. Selling, we don't have a lot of 2-story homes by design, because in a retirement community, not many people want to be going upstairs with laundry in their 60s and 70s, especially with knee replacements or hip replacements or whatever. And so that has become a real big conversation. The other thing that we're starting to see a lot of is people wanting 3-car garages or outdoor space, right? They want that outdoor living, because COVID, everybody was so tied up in their house, like outdoors, yes, please. And that's why fun fact, right? 90 rural loans are up almost 90% over the last couple of years. And that's cool, because people are wanting to be outside. They want more like space, which is really, really interesting. So when I look at the development of properties in the West, we're not done yet by a long shot. When you start to have these conversations and mastering like what this looks like, that strategic compensation negotiation, right? You're dialing people in, that how you represent them, but those transparent agreements, you're walking them through that, you're aligning with their goals and how you show up, and your knowledge of the market and inventory and product type. But then you can start to meet them in a way that they go, oh, why would I hire anybody else? When you look at most sellers, they will only interview one agent. I want to say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 60%, but like 80% of buyers, they will work with the first buyer's agent they meet. As a result, that's been historic. That's not really changed yet, even with the advent of the buyer agreements really in the last year. But it's one of those things to be mindful of. So how we master these conversations is really how we go forward and get smarter. And what's so interesting about that, as we look into 2026, and I know we're not even into too far into September at this point, but what you do right now for September and November is building that pipeline. So many agents they're mentally checking out, right? They're having a hard time. They're like, it was a long hot summer, interest rates are high, there's a lot of people to blame, like, the market sucks, I'll get back to it, next month, or I'll wait until Monday. This is what I want you to think about. If buyers are coming off of summer delays, interest rates were high, they were worried about tariffs, they were worried about all of these things, those phone calls you make right now of, hey, we haven't connected in a little bit, I want to be proactive for you on your behalf. What does it look like for you? Are you still in the market? Do you want to be in by the holidays? Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, like what's important to you and your family? And see, leveraging those shifts and talking about, hey, we've seen kind of a level market as far as prices haven't appreciated a whole lot. And in fact, we're seeing more inventory than we ever have. So you can take your time and choose the best property for you. Would that be of interest to you? Those are conversations you get to have. And this is also the best time to be reaching out to sellers, because they were on the market in the spring and they didn't quite get the traction they wanted. Okay, let's talk about it now. So as you look at this fall, these are 4 steps I really want you to think about. This is the year to really kind of push through and how you finish strong. And a lot of that is the mindset that 2026 is starting. Like everything you do today feeds 2026, the calls you make, the people you connect with, and how you show up as a professional. So if you're like, okay, Holly, where do I start? This is a lot. My LinkedIn isn't perfect. Okay, go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to interview you to become a higher producing professional. Very simple, but more on that in a minute. When we start to look at how we go through the next few months together, these are things that I'd love to encourage you to adapt and adopt every week between now and Thanksgiving. If you were to go out and meet 10 people, 10 direct contacts, not DMs or calls, I really want you to go out face to face. You are connecting with 10 people a week. That makes a huge difference. Like building business relationships. Maybe they're a past client. Maybe they are somebody that you had on your marketing list, like they're an MLS drip campaign. My goodness, but you haven't seen them. Go stop by. Hey, I was thinking about you. I was in the neighborhood, wanted to bring you something about your HOA, wanted to give you updates on what I'm seeing on insurance rates in our area, all of those types of things. That becomes really, really important. The other thing I want you to focus on is, how do I get a buyer consultation a week? I want a signed agreement a week where I'm getting so good at this that people wouldn't think of going anywhere else. So having that consultation, walking people through how you work and how it benefits their family, it makes a huge difference. And also, y'all, practice makes perfect. Like I used to go all the time with my business partner, and we would literally work through every form. Taco Tuesday, we take turns presenting a form, and it's like, okay, can I present it in a conversational way that helped you feel comfortable because I knew it so well? And if I could do that, it made a huge difference in how we moved forward. It was awesome. Now, the seller and the pricing reviewer re-engagement, if you had somebody that you had listed last fall or even in the spring and they didn't sell, maybe they pulled it off the market, please be reaching out. If you haven't been, pick up the phone, go see them, drop them off an updated market analysis, and schedule a time to just visit. Visit with them on what their goals are, what's important to them, and what's been shifting in the market. They may not be ready to sell, but it's okay because you're in front of them and top of mind. And also, and this is what's so cool, by being there and being proactive, it gets them starting to think again. Should we sell? What would this look like? Where would we go? What questions should we be asking? And you can come with that updated listing presentation that we've got in Canva for you. It makes a huge difference. You are proactively advocating for that couple or that family. Then maybe it was just like, oh, it's not the right time. We're nervous. We're scared. And then maybe something happens and they've got to move. Okay, great. You've been giving them the information to make the best decision. Now, the last, and this is a little more outside some people's comfort zone. I will admit that, like, I've got some friends, they're like, I don't look good on video. Okay, practice. practice on video. I know I make a lot of facial expressions. I know that I use a lot of different words. It's been practice. And y'all, you only get good practicing by putting yourself out there. See, that educational market update, that video, it makes a huge difference. And this is what I'll say, like, you can also do these on your cell phone and send it to a client. It's like, hey, thinking about you. I wanted you to know what's going on in your neighborhood. The house down the street just sold for this much, but let me tell you about the concessions that they had to do. Let me know if you have any questions. Hope you and your family are great. And you send it as a text. It doesn't have to go on your socials, your Facebook or your LinkedIn, but it's a really good practice to do those one-offs and connect. Now, this is the other thing I'll say. 30 seconds. 30 seconds is your friend. 60 seconds is a danger zone. 2 minutes is Death Valley. The shorter, the better. Be succinct and thoughtful. Show your personality and get out there and do it, because the more you get out in front of people, it makes a difference. Now, the personalized video does not replace the 10 direct contacts. Get in your car, go see somebody. It makes a huge difference. And I will share that there are some coaches out there who are even more aggressive than I am, and that's okay. I want you to do and figure out what makes sense for you and how you go forward. So this is where I want you to start. See, this time of year is all about building for next. This time of year is how we grow. And I think you probably figured out, like, eXp, we are very forward thinking and we're investing a lot in leveraging AI. I've built my own GPT that consults myself and a lot of our brokers and staff here at eXp. They can ask questions. It's called SVP in your pocket. What's so important about this, though, is I've also, in designing it, asked it to interview me. I asked it to interview me on things that I know, what's important to me, etc. And so I wanted to give you all a prompt to put in ChatGPT to help you build a better business plan for the sales that you want to have in 2026. And what's so important about this, and you can just take a picture of the screen or screenshot it, but the picture you can upload to ChatGPT, is I want to grow my business in the last quarter of this year and set myself up for 2026. I currently sell X amount of homes, whatever that number is, 15, 20, 25, and then I want to double that, or you can put in a number. Maybe you want to increase your sales volume or your GCI, whatever is important to you. And then these are questions you're going to have it ask, and it's going to give you information. Now, this is what's so cool, is by breaking it down like this. This is totally readable from ChatGPT. It will be able to go, oh yeah, great prompt. And then it will ask you a bunch of questions, and I want you to copy and paste what that is, put it on like a Google Doc or a Word doc, work through it, answer all the questions, and then upload it back to ChatGPT. By doing that, ChatGPT then will be able to help you design how many calls you should be making a week. How many personal connections should you really be doing? See, I can recommend 10. At one point, my coach, it was 10 a day for me. Personal notes, calls, and then I had to go meet 5 people a week. See, I was very proactive, but I needed to do that for my business. I'm in a small town and I grew up here, but I had left when I was in like the 2nd grade. So I was back and getting to know people. What's important about this is how you leverage where you live with what you know and how you connect. And this takes the pain out of it. You really don't have to think about it. AI is really your thought partner in all of this. And what I love, and I'm constantly using it every day, like, okay, how can I improve upon this? And I'll bounce ideas out of ChatGPT, but then also, does that resonate with who I am? Makes a difference. It allows us to go deeper. So think about this prompt, copy and paste it, put it into your ChatGPT, and then start to leverage. It makes a huge difference. And this will allow you to set up workflows. I love using an app called Novation, and it allows me to set up workflows. But if you don't have a great CRM, like, you can set up those workflows. I'm sorry, not Novation, Notion. And it will help me build systems, right? And it's accountability partner. That's another AI. So all of these things are at your fingertips. Please don't be scared. Just take a risk and step into it, because it does make a huge difference. As you start to think about the rest of this year and what your focus is, I want you to think about the strategic listing repitch. It's a huge time right now. So if you've got somebody, maybe you've had the listing for 3 or 4 months, it's time to go back and repitch them on what you're seeing based on the market right now. Set them for success. Show them that you're the professional. Don't wait until it's about to expire. Get out in front of it. Then I want you to practice those buyer conversations and really master that agreement so you're so comfortable that people go, why wouldn't I hire you? And yes, I see why I should pay you this. And what's important about this, y'all, is the lawsuit and the settlement. Plaintiffs' counsel thought that the commissions were going to come down. That was the whole focus is, commissions should come down. You guys are getting paid too much. I would argue we have done a better job of articulating who we are, what we do, and who we do it for now more than ever. And as a result, compensation has not dropped. You can check out the recent Wall Street Journal, and we've got a lot of other data that has come out, but compensation hasn't gone down. And I've actually got some solo buyer agents who are killing it and actually getting paid more because they're able to show everything that they're doing. Your mastery here makes a difference, and your end game and your bottom line. And then finally, that clarity of video. And so I've given you a couple of topics to think about, right? I love planning and zoning. I know, super nerd, but the planning and zoning updates make a huge difference. People love local and they're not getting it, right? Where are they going? So as a result, if you're updating people on what's happening in planning and zoning, new color changes, are they putting in more bike lanes? Are they widening a road? What does it look like for the area? Are you getting a Walmart? Big deal in my area. Are you getting, a Starbucks? All of those things people get excited about. So why not be the ambassador of awesome? But then talk about the days on market adjustment. Look at things that are coming out from Redfin as far as their data. And again, follow NAR research. Amazing content that you can break down and make more personal. That local business boost. Absolutely. Talk about a business that helped you out, right? They saved you from an expensive car repair, or they helped cater a lunch that you did, or my goodness, best place to have the perfect coffee in the morning. Like whatever that looks like, keep it local and help those businesses out. And oh, by the way, share it with them, tag them in it on your social media because it boosts them and they remember you. Makes a difference. And then loan information. Be talking a lot with your local lender or any of our loan officers from Success Lending. See, they want to help and they want to give you information. What are rates doing? What kinds of loan programs are happening? What is occurring across the nation? As well as what can you see locally? How long are appraisals taking? This is information that you can do in a video. Again, 30 seconds is your friend. 45 gets a little shaky. And anything above 60 seconds to 2 minutes is Death Valley. So be super careful, be super succinct. And if you need to do a longer form, cool. If you do a longer form, make sure it's the right format on YouTube and not on your socials. But that's a whole nother story in another class. Guys, you've got this. Going between now and end of year, your focus and your drive is going to make all the difference in the world. The commitment you have to take care of yourself, take care of your clients, builds 2026 for success. So don't wait. Today's your day. Start to leverage what makes the most sense as you go forward. Thanks so much, and I hope to see you very, very soon.